Hi, good morning, everyone. Greetings from Rainbow Children Hospital. I hope you're having a great Sunday. So, we are continuing with our Sunday webinar series where we have been addressing parents regarding problems that they face with the children, especially in these tough times. We had covered a number of sessions before, but one of the key sessions that we had promised we will do is regarding the behavioral problems that we're facing in children due to this lockdown. So for this topic, we have two of our eminent panelists here. With me, I have Dr. Nitya. Dr. Nitya is a psychiatrist. Dr. Nitya, maybe you can just introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Dr. Nitya and I'm a psychiatrist. I have a specialized in child and adolescent psychiatry and it's my special area of interest. And I'm a consultant at Rainbow Hospital, Banjara Hills and Kondapur.
Great, thanks. And I also have with me another eminent pediatrician who also conducted the first session of the series, Dr. Faisal. Dr. Faisal, a quick introduction from your side for our listeners.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Hope you're having a good Sunday and you're healthy. I'm Dr. Faisal and I'm working as a pediatrician at Rainbow Children's Hospital, Banjara Hills and Kondapur. Yeah, Dr. Rohit.
Thanks. So what we will do is, before starting off, just wanted to mention two words about the Sunday knowledge sharing webinar that we're doing. We have been doing since July. We are very actively involved in the community because we are the leaders in child and women care. So we had started off with Dr. Fazal himself taking a session on vaccination. Then we went on to other topics such as fever in children, COVID in children, nutrition, and specialized area in conditions, etc. You can just type Rainbow Patient Webinars on YouTube and you can access all the sessions. In the next couple of days, this session also will be available on YouTube. So if you miss something, you can always revisit the topic again. So let's start with today's session. What we have done is we just wanted to cover questions that we have received from all our listeners as well as parents. So the first question, Nitya, just want to you to elaborate on: is there a psychological impact of pandemic in children? Will it affect them in long term? What's your view, and what have you?
Yeah. The psychological impact on children, I would say, is the most underestimated because it presents, we might not be able to identify it, and children might not be able to express it verbally. So they may show it in different ways, like they may become aggressive or they may become clingy. So, it doesn't, they don't verbalize like how we adults do when we feel anxious. Okay, so it is the most underestimated. And I would say, the impact is not uniform across all children. So say children with special needs, they have difficulty accessing therapeutic services, psychotherapy. And children with ADHD, they need outdoor spaces and they're not able to, it's all the more. So it gets more difficult for them. And even age-wise, like older children, it has a different impact, like they're missing their graduation ceremonies and they're having a lot of stress with related to studies, etc. And with younger children, that home environment, increased screen time, so the impact varies from child to child. In the long run, we cannot say what is going to be the kind of impact. It depends on the situation, but what would actually be conducive for the child's, like a conducive home environment would be protective for the child. That is what we can say. It would decrease the risk of the impact.
Dr. Faisal, a lot of these children, you have been seeing them for many years together. So, in the last 6 months, what has been your experience in, the children issues, and do you think it will remain long term?
Dr. Rohit, I think that the maximum suffered age group due to the pandemic and lockdown is the kids. Now, as WHO already defines, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So, WHO clearly says that it's not only physical absence of a disease, but mental and social well-being. So we have seen lots of children where, as my colleague Dr. Nitya has already pointed out, that they are coming with stress-related problems. The parents communicating to me about stress situations in a child, where due to increased screen time and those things, children have less eye-to-eye contact. They have temper tantrums kind of things. They are more into bungee eating and those things. Their eating habits have become disturbed. So these are some issues which we'll take one by one.
Sure. So one of the key things, Dr. Faisal, you are, I can say you're like a gatekeeper for all our children, right? They land up to you because the relationship the parents have with you. So how do you identify a mental health issue? How do you identify anxiety? Any pointers as to when they should seek specialized help from a person like Dr. Nitya?
See, most of these patients can be picked up after second year of age with their eye-to-eye contact, their language skills, their socialization skills, and those things. I pick up many a time a child's spending more time on TV, YouTubes, and those things. If the language what they speak by second, third year is not similar to what the language the family speaks. So a child who is more hooked to a particular cartoon, like suppose Doraemon, he speaks that kind of language more. His accent is that kind. His eye-to-eye contact with strangers and those things is not good because he's a little bit fearful. In this lockdowns and those things, we have seen temper tantrums definitely increasing a little bit more in children, and definitely childhood obesity is one of the other risks which we have to see on that. Children are not physically more active; they are more into sedentary lifestyle inside their homes and those things. So they are into bungee eating. That's the kind of stress relief what they find when they keep on munching on something. So those habits have to be made into more healthier eating habits and those things to make a safe atmosphere for them at home.
Yeah. So, Dr. Nitya, you are very, you're a specialized consultant focusing on child and adolescent psychiatry. So, how do the parents visit you? I'm sure there are certain conditions in which they come and referred by pediatricians like Dr. Faisal. So, a little bit you can mention so that people know what to look out for.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. So as I said earlier, the presentation could be very varied. So children, especially younger children, when they have anxiety about something, they might become more clingy to parents. They might, regress sometimes. That is, they might start thumb sucking or bedwetting, which was not there previously. That could start. And many of the children have complaints like body pains, headaches, stomach ache. Usually, they approach the pediatricians first, and then when completely thoroughly assessed, there is no problem, then slowly a psychological, aspect comes in front. And other ways are like you can see some disturbance in sleep pattern, disturbance in their appetite. Some children could get hyperactive, could get aggressive. Okay, all these things are seen in younger children. Okay, and when coming to older children, you can probably see that they are not interacting as much. They are dull, withdrawn, or probably not eating properly, sleeping properly. And so these are some of the pointers, especially biological functions like sleep and appetite are disturbed. Then you can probably suspect that the child is going through some kind of stress. And on deal with it, yeah. So what is more important is to talk to them and allow them to communicate. So if they're feeling, talk to them and see, are you feeling angry? Are you feeling upset about something? Okay, allowing them to talk about their anxieties would help. And you can teach them simple relaxation techniques like deep breathing, and how to keep their bodies fine, like we call it a simple 4-5-5 technique. So taking 4 count till 4 and take a deep breath, hold it for 5 seconds and leave it for 5 seconds. Okay, so those kind of techniques, and keeping them engaged in activities that they love, like their favorite drawing or some kind of favorite activities like puzzles or something like that, something that relaxes them, and spending time with them would help.
Yeah, you were interestingly mentioned. So, Dr. Faisal, are you seeing, conditions in your OP where they come up with more physical ailments, kind of a situation like headaches, etc., but might have mental, conditions associated? What have you seen?
Yeah, I have seen smaller children, Dr. Rohit, if they are less than 4 or 5 years old, they have come with more temper tantrums and those things. More temper tantrums, more poor eye-to-eye contact and those things, where we suspect that there could be a psychological factor or some other underlying problems related to some other reason rather than the normal things. Children who are more than 7-8 years, we are seeing children coming with obesity, too much of eating and those things, unhealthy eating habits, causing more difficulties. Children grown up more than 10 years are coming with headaches. Increased screen time may be one of the reasons. Increased screen time, online, offline, both, because most of the activity is restricted, or watching movies and those things are increasing their thing. And then there is one factor which most of the parents do ignore: negative news coming at home, and an impact on a child of negative news, especially with this kind of pandemic. That I'm sure that most of the families are on a some point or the other are receiving news of sickness in the family members, relatives, friends, neighbors, and those things. And that impact, how does it affect the child? On an adolescent and a child who understands more than 5 to 6 years, it's becoming difficult for those children to cope. They're not very expressive. Okay, they're not very expressive, so they have other things where they seek attention of a family many a times.
Yeah, very true. I see that in my children too, Dr. Faisal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Nithya, this is one specific question that I have been hearing from parents. A lot of children, there's a lot of them have some kind of a underlying condition like ADHD, etc., which is okay in a normal situation. But in lockdown, it has become very difficult to manage that hyperactivity. Any advice from you how to handle such situation?
Yes, Dr. Rohit, this is indeed a very difficult situation, especially for children with ADHD, wherein they need to play. Outdoor spaces are really important. They, we need to channelize their hyperactivity, but they are not able to. It's getting more difficult for them. They also have difficulty in planning, execution. Okay, attention issues might be there, and they're constantly staying at home. All these things would make it very stressful for them. So they might show frustration, aggression, like oppositional behavior, saying no to everything or something like that. Okay, so this is a very difficult situation. Some of them may even have anxiety and depression kind of symptoms too. So now that outdoor play is not there, it is very important to have physical activity at home during the day. So some kind of physical activity for at least 1 hour will, make them calm down for the next 1 or 2 hours. So now that we are not able to go out, having for younger children, probably, something like, running from this side to that side 10 times, or creating some structured games like that, using a trampoline, jumping, skipping, somewhere where some kind of physical games will actually help them calm down after some time. So after 1 hour of those kind of games, they can sit down and do some focused activities for the next 1 hour. Okay, so that is one of the ways that we can plan. Second thing is they have difficulty planning, structuring their day. So we need to make a routine and stick it up for them to see. So instead of saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? We can create a routine for them, sit with them and create a routine along with them, paste it somewhere so that they can see. And instead of giving cues every time, like we telling them, prodding them to do things, we can actually put some alarms so that they don't get triggered, some alarms or some pictures somewhere to remind them of what to do next. and keep something interesting for them. If they are able to follow it to an extent, and if they're finding it interesting, and if they're able to do it, some kind of a reward or something like that to keep encouraging them. So reward doesn't mean it has to be some gift or something like that. Some shared activity, some time with you, spending time with the children is also important, like communicating with them and talking to them in general. So that will also allow them to let out their frustration. So structuring their day, talking to them, and having some physical activity are some of the things that I would suggest for them. And if they're already on medication, maybe you can have a talk with the consultant also. If it is getting too difficult, then probably have a consultation and discuss what can be done.
On that topic, Dr. Faisal, those patients of ADHD who are already on medication, so have you seen any kind of changes in the medication? Has it to be increased, decreased? What have you seen? Never seen such situation before. So what have you been seeing?
I have come across some patients definitely who are who were on specific therapy for their behavioral issues and those things. And due to the lockdown and those things, families had a problem. Now everyone doesn't have an access to an online consultation with a doctor. So those children were more vulnerable. Somehow other patients got in touch with their doctors through video consultations and those things. But there are really some families who do not have access to those things. So those children were, due to lack of therapy, they have gone back to zero. And we have seen their symptoms increasing. Now they have to start, there were few of the patients who needed to start from scratch again.
Okay. But have you witnessed any increase in dosages, Dr. Faisal, for these children?
See, not very likely, but there were very few patients of them. Very few patients who had to increase the doses temporarily for some times, and the parents had to be counseled about the necessity of the therapy to continue, and activity, if therapy is not possible, how they are supposed to interact with the child, because it's their hard efforts which matter a lot for the child.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Dr. Nithya, actually, Dr. Faisal, I'm sure you know that the screen time is increased a lot, right? Online classes, household chores, parents working. What recommendation have you been giving to parents to manage this situation? And then, Dr. Nithya, I'll come to you also.
There are lots of guidelines about how much screen time is okay for age specific group. I would not go into too much of details of that. My colleague Dr. Nithya will put a little bit more specific about how much time it has to be there, how you can cope up with that. But generally there has to be frequent breaks. We all agree on one thing, that there has to be frequent breaks between their online classes and those things. For a small child less than 5 years, we restrict them. The guidelines, national and international guidelines, restrict them for less than 1 or 2 hours only, and above 5 years it's 3 hours, I think so. And children of adults and age group and those things, it can be 4 to 5 hours maximum in the whole day. But there are certain other things, that special coaching is and those things, so those times have to be restricted or can be kept on some particular days only, rather than on a daily basis. A child who is attending school from morning to afternoon he finishes, then he has some special coaching or something, and again screen time, that would not be a healthy practice for a child. Okay, so they need to restrict. It's very important, parents need to understand. Now there are two kind of situations what I see, Dr. Rohit. One is a nuclear family kind of situation, and one is a joint family. Joint family, still they cope up because there are other supportive members and those things. There is a lot of interaction and those things. So they do not, I don't see much of problems in joint families because of lockdown, because those children get exposure to offline things also. Nuclear families, especially families where mother and father both are working, we are seeing more challenges there, where children are not getting enough attention. So my request to my patients always has been that give some time to him. See, I say my patients that to put in more simple words, see, for your child, his idol is not the prime minister, president, some sports star or some film star. He is not his idol. His idol are his parents. So he will look forward towards his parents to help him in this kind of crisis. Okay, this kind of special situations and those things, it's the parents who needs to put effort rather than someone outsourced. Okay, so they have to turn wise, make things attractive at home. Some creativity and those things definitely help. Storytelling is one thing for children who are less than 6-7 years old, helps them. Speaking about, I speak to patients and those things, that before pandemic, how you need to show the world to your child. Showing the world to your child is not taking on a holiday and those things. Even some simple childhood activities, what we used to do is go to the market, bring things, go take a bus ride, take a metro rail ride and those things. But right now those things are not possible. But we can speak about our good old childhood days, what we were used to do. And thus, yes, we will do this once things become better. Be honest to your children about the pandemic, about coronavirus. Don't follow too much of social media, and don't give too much excess and extra knowledge without to your children to make them scared more. So right now, what has worked in most of the children is most of them have been scared because they have received too much of extra knowledge, which is right, and many times it is wrong also. So they have got too much of knowledge, scare, people dying and those things, these things are happening and those things. Be honest about coronavirus. Yes, it is a treatable condition. You speak to them that way. Be assuring. When it comes from a parent's mouth to a child, it makes his life more simple and more, he gets more assured and safe.
Yeah, that's great, Dr. Faisal. Dr. Nitya, specifically from the, from a mental health standpoint, what kind of advice have you been giving? Screen time, what makes sense? What's the right amount? And how do we manage?
Yeah. So I will talk about this with respect to the age of the child. So first we'll talk about younger children and then older children. So as sir has mentioned, 0 to 2 years, it should only be, there should be no screen time, and 2 to 5 years, maximum 1 hour per day, 1 to 1.5 hours per day, in, 2 breaks, that is half an hour breaks, and every half an hour there should be a break. Okay, and even this recommendation by WHO says that it is not really mandatory. So it should be along with co-watching, like the parent should watch along with the child, and not leave the child to watch the screen alone passively. Okay, and for this, what is the impact of screen time? For this, we need to understand brain development. So initially, like 0 to 5 years is the age when the child's brain develops rapidly. There are a lot of neuronal synaptic connections, they're called. So those connections are formed. So environment plays a very important role in this age group. Okay, so it is important to have a, what you call, a stimulating environment at home. So as sir mentioned, Dr. Faisal mentioned that joint families, like, in even 20 to 30 years back, when so many people were there in the house, and there was a lot of interaction among family members, there were a lot of children to play with, songs were being sung, and children were told stories. It was a naturally a stimulating environment. But right now our scenario has changed, and we are in nuclear families. And mostly the child is left with one caretaker, maybe a babysitter who doesn't interact much, or somebody who's watching, the child is left to watch television or some other gadget. So what happens is children are slowly, because of this lack of stimulation, children are developing delayed communication, delay in speech. Some are becoming hyperactive, and behavioral issues are coming up, like tantrums and demanding for things and adamant behavior. And we are also seeing that sometimes children are getting scared. They watch some age inappropriate things on TV, and they get frightened. They develop phobias as well. So it is very important that we regulate this. So there are two things: how to cut down screen time and how to have a stimulating environment. So to make them, you need to make the environment more interactive, like play with them, play also in an interactive way. Just playing, like see there is a car that is going, and just passively playing is something, and playing, see, very excitedly, let me put the car on you, see, zoom, it's going this way. Like if you were to talk in a more expressive manner and try to stimulate all the senses, like roll the car over the child's hand. Okay, that way sensory also you're stimulating. So you're stimulating visually, you're talking and stimulating auditory. Okay, and this kind of play is more helpful for the child's development. And The other thing is you can give a lot of sensory play at home. So like play, you have dove, you have sand, you can give water to play with, different textures you can expose them to, and you can use slime, household objects itself you can give them. Okay, so stimulation doesn't mean only brain stimulation or only cognitive, like teaching them things. So all kinds of interaction, physical play is also very important. So it should be like an overall interactive environment, and along with cutting down of screen time. So coming to the other aspect of how to cut down screen time, the first and most important thing is that parents have to cut down their own screen time. Because when children look at you and they are watching you use gadgets, then it's unlikely that they will also stop using it. And also it will affect their self-confidence, self-esteem as well. When the child comes to you, approaches you, and you don't look at the child and you're looking at your phone, so the child will feel that what the child is not important. So it can lead to that kind of self-esteem issues also. And another thing that needs to be done is like having meal times and certain bedroom or family time free from screens. The screen should be switched off when not in use. Okay, this is like even for older children. When you have to use screens for education and everything, there should be meal free time, screen free times during meals and during family interactions. And you can use the screen. If you have to give it, then you can give it as a reinforcer. Like, if the child did the homework well and is doing well behaved that day, then you can give it as a reinforcer, like 10 minutes of this thing as a reward. And the screen can be used for interacting with family, for social interactions. Okay, so these are the different ways in which we can use it judiciously. And older children should be we have to discuss with them about judicious use of screens, like not accepting every stranger's friends requests. Safety has to be discussed with them. And social media use, and if somebody passes some negative comment, then how to respond, or how, all these things have to be kept in mind and discussed with the children. The screens also should be kept in a place where all family members have access. It should be in the hall or not in a bedroom. Okay, so by taking these kind of precautions, a screen time can be restricted. And the most important thing being setting a limit. So it has to be discussed beforehand, so how much screen time the child is going to get, and try to give warnings before itself, like 10 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go, so that abruptly if you switch off, it might lead to a tantrum. So the child will be a little more prepared when you switch it off. So using these kind of certain principles, we can cut down the screen time and allow them to use it judicially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dr. Faisal, if you see the screen time side, obviously we can say, but there's a big change that has happened on the work side too, right? Parents are working from home, so it's very difficult to keep the child engaged. So screen time is increasing. Do you see any impact on other physical conditions that might come up because of excessive uses of screens? I can see one is usage, the posture in which they use it on their beds, and so as a pediatrician, what do you think we should be aware of and be prepared for?
It's always better that we advise them to be away from the bed when they're using any screen time. Okay, whether watching for a movie also or something, you are not supposed to be on your bed and watch it, because it may give you some postural problems. Okay, sit and watch, that's important. With adequate natural lighting or nearby a window, that's always better, because they can do that 20-20-20 exercise, what Dr. Nitya and we were discussing before, that they have, after every 20 minutes they have to look at a little bit of distance and those things and relax their eyes a little bit. The second thing is they drink enough liquids, hydrate themselves well, that's important. Okay, walk in between, take a break, so your muscles and those things become free and you do not have body pains and those things more. Okay, so these are some things which definitely help. And try to keep as much as possible healthy eating habits. Unhealthy eating habits leads to more problems during what we have seen during pandemics and those things. indigestion, constipation, headaches. There are certain issues which come to the children report to the hospital very often because of less intakes of water and those things. We are seeing children coming with headaches due to increased screen time, dryness of the eyes because more of continuous blinking of the eyes. These are some issues which can be addressed appropriately. And with the changes in your sitting position, your exercises, minimum exercises, what you do, that's applicable for even adults and children also. What we do with most of the people who are into more of gadgets and those things, they also are supposed to take breaks to keep their vision and those things healthy.
Sure, sure. Now, if you just go on what has become a reality, Dr. Nithya, right? Online classes. We want little older children. How do we make them concentrate? They just don't concentrate on online classes. They are distracted. Any tips there?
Yeah, this question is this is really a very common situation. So, and we are not concentrating on online classes. Actually, all of us, even adults, are finding it difficult to get used to this new online mode of for everything. So for children, this is not the usual way they learn. Usually they sit in class and that's a different thing. And now they're at home. We cannot expect it to be the same as school. Like teacher is not right in front of them, and online use is completely a whole different thing. So it is, what we can do is probably have a discussion, a conversation with the child as to see why the child is not able to concentrate. Like, is the child having any attention problems, or is the child getting distracted by watching something else parallelly, or we need to see if the child is having difficulty understanding the subject, or the child is just bored, the child is not interested in the thing. We need to see why the child is not able to focus. Okay, that is the first aspect. And what we can probably do is we can ask them and see if we can give any extra help at other times with respect to the subjects or what they are finding it difficult to cope. Okay, we have to see if if the scholastic performance is coming down drastically, then it really needs to be addressed. But if there is only a slight fall, a little difficulty with studies but not much, but then I think we should also look at our expectations from our side, because this is a whole new situation, and they are also under stress. So making it, we need to see whether we are focusing too much on their performance, and whether we are being flexible enough. I think we should be a little understanding of their situation as well, and see if we can offer any help with respect to the difficulties that they are facing, and have a conversation with them. That is more important to first look at what needs to be addressed there.
Dr. Faisal, there's a question from a parent. He says that in this whole scenario of online classes, focused on gadgets which were going on, the child has started stammering. Is it a common thing you're seeing? I hope it won't remain for a long time. What is your view on that?
See, a child who has generally attained his language skills quite on a regular period and those things, and then he has acquired stammering over a period of time, it may be a stressful condition for him, which has to be addressed appropriately. What is troubling it and what is the trigger for it right now? Okay, most of the times reassurance and those things, and really finding out the stressful factors and avoiding it would generally be helpful. In this kind of situations where the child is not going to school, sometimes we see pressures from other children, school related pressures and those things, sibling rivalries, rivalries with friends, or some disturbance in the family's atmosphere or something, which causes this kind of factors, which surely if we find the root cause, it can be treated appropriately, it can be addressed appropriately. Dr. Nithya would add something to it.
Yes, as Dr. Faisal said, it could be a reflection of some kind of anxiety. Probably the child is finding it difficult to adjust to the new situation, new routine, or something to do with the family environment, what's going on in the family, the dynamics, the relationships. Are there any arguments, any issues in the family? Is the child finding it difficult to cope with the studies? So there are different areas that need to be explored to see what exactly the child is going through. So, and then as we mentioned, some anxiety managing strategies, and if it is too severe, some medication, if required, can be given if the anxiety is severe.
Sure. Dr. Faisal, I mean, you can just take that this question. They say the child is, complains of just being bored all the time, right? We are short of all ideas. What should we do? You are a parent yourself, also being a pediatrician. Any ideas? I think as a combination of both, as a pediatrician and a parent. And Dr. Nithya, I'll come to you also.
See, the situation is evolving day by day, Dr. Rohit, and we need to I don't think so this is going to go away for another 2-3 months until we have a vaccination or a clear-cut solution. The thing is, we better be smart. We can't keeping children into lockdowns for longer durations, but yes, definitely with due precautions and our understanding of the pandemic and those things. I still recommend some of my patients that, okay, your child needs time, he needs to go out, take him out during safe times, that is morning walk or something, at least once or twice in a week. You can go out with him. You need to be more active and playful with him. So a parent has to give some time of his or her, mother and father, both. To clap, you need both hands. Only mother can't do anything, only father can't do anything. Okay, so both have their own roles to play. Okay, for adults and children, there is a patient of mine. For adults and children, they had a problem that how to cope with her. She's not expressive. You need to have your creative ideas how your children can be more expressive to you with good news and bad news both. Second thing, to decrease boredom for an adult and child, definitely I say them do cooking at home. Okay, the father gets involved, the mother gets involved, they see some recipe and those things, they make something, they have a family dinner or something together, they will enjoy it. So that has helped some of my patients definitely, where the involvement of the child, especially adults and age group, is much better if they do some combined activities and those things. And definitely the boredom would decrease if you have some play activity. If you have dedicated times for play activity, food, eating together. In my childhood, in what atmosphere I have been brought up, is generally we most of us stayed in a joint family. We started respecting our other family members and those things, not because we were taught or we had been given classes and those things. The whole thing was that the whole family used to have food together. So whether it's morning, breakfast, lunch or dinner, the whole family used to sit together and have lunch together. That was a practice which is slowly, which has completely faded away from the most of the families now. Now every family member has his own time, he has his own food and then goes. With pandemic, at least we have enough time that we are all under the same roof. So start that practice of eating food together. It puts more better moral values in your child, and it decreases his boredom. Its attachment to you becomes more with having food together. So that's one practice which definitely helps. Cooking foods, getting some creative activity, going sometime outside is okay with due precautions and those things. When the time is right, you can go, you should go out. Okay, you can't keep him under lockdown for 6 months, as most of the parents have done it. But try some time, at least once in a week, morning time, early morning time, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock is a safe zone where you can go for a small walk. That should be helpful.
Yeah, I think cooking is a great idea. It's just that post the cooking, the amount of mess that has to be cleaned up is really high. But that's okay. But Nithya, any other thoughts on managing this boredom issue in children?
Yeah, the boredom, as of now, it is very understandable from the child's point of view, because we ourselves are bored, and children don't have any other alternatives. They cannot go out and play. They cannot do anything else. So one thing is that boredom is not always bad. So it leads to creativity. It leads to imagination. So it's not such a bad thing. So one thing that can be kept in mind. Secondly, we can also look and see if the child is repeatedly saying bored, I am bored. Is the child trying to convey that he or she wants time with you? Maybe the child is asking for your quality time. So that is also one of the things that needs to be that we need to think about. So quality time, as sir mentioned, which means that you spend the time with the child completely without any distractions, without a mobile, without talking to anybody. And mentally also you should be fully present. The child will know if your mind is somewhere else. And allowing the child to play, to take the lead and just follow the lead, not correct the child, not give instructions, do this, do that, but just allow the child to play as the child wants and go with the flow. And any minor misbehavior, you can just ignore it at that time. So that kind of a quality time, if you give to the child every day, maybe say half an hour or 1 hour, that would fill up the child. So if the child is getting bored and you're working, both parents are working, doesn't mean that entire day you're going to spend with the child. And you don't have to come up with new activities all the time. So having quality time will help the child a lot. So, and the next thing is having a routine, like a structure. Structuring the child's schedule every day will reduce boredom. So the child will know what to expect, what comes next. So that will also give a child a feeling of self-control. So the child will feel less anxious. The child will know it might take some time to settle down into a routine. But if you persist, the child will ultimately come to terms with it and will start getting more comfortable, less frustrated. Okay. And activities need not be something that that are too this thing, something we don't have to focus on learning too much. Also, it could be like, as Dr. Faisal mentioned, simple stories from your childhood, singing songs together, dance together, or playing simple games like dumb charades, these kind of things, or using those things in the house and coming up with something creative with them. So these kind of things, we can even ask the child to come up with certain things, certain new games. So, but what is more important is the quality of interaction we have with the child. So that would be more helpful. With respect to older children like teens, we can help them pursue new interests, new hobbies that they could not do before. So that will probably reduce boredom.
Sure. So now, a lot of questions are coming on age groups, right? So we'll go quickly on this. We have covered a lot of it. Dr. Faisal, 4-year-old, that's a group that you see a lot, up to 4 years old. Younger children, they are showing tantrums, crying, if you don't give what they want. So how to manage that situation? What have you been advising? You're seeing a lot of these children.
If this age group, Dr. Rohit, I generally say them to ignore. 4 years old child temper tantrums, as Dr. Nitya already said, that see, most of the time they would be doing for attention seeking. The temper tantrums and crying is more because of attention. They think that this is the hotline to communicate with the parents. Yeah. Especially if you are working from home and you are on your screen, he needs his screen there. So you need to maintain a balance there. If you are in a nuclear family, you need to maintain a balance. If you're on a joint family, then all family members need to know temper tantrums, ignore it. So what happens is, if a child throws a temper tantrum, the mother and father know that he's just going to make it a habit or something, and it's not crying for valid reasons. Then some other family member comes and picks and just gives him a little bit of more of pep talk. Then his behavior doesn't stop that way. You need to maintain a balance there.
Yeah. So, Dr. Faisal, someone, one of the parents congratulated you for being in a joint family when you were small, but now everyone is a nuclear family. So what do we do then?
See, I say my patients always that it's we who have to make a difference for our children. We need to decide about innovative ways to come at home. It's very important for an upbringing of a child. See, the world is no more secure for him because of the pandemic and those things. What is there in my hands is my family atmosphere, my home atmosphere. So my home atmosphere has to be that I have to be more creative, more interactive, and speak to my child. There is all negative news and negative energy going around. I am the one who has to put positive things at home and say that this world is going to become a better place for my child, rather than just he being bombarded with his the news of these things coming in, and how to cope up with sad news and those things. I need to create a healthy atmosphere and promise my child that this world is going to become a better place for him in the future. This is just a temporary phase which will go away. I need to balance it out. Okay. The second thing is I have to give some time. I have seen my children, my grown-up children who are in 10th and 11th standard now have become more expressive to me, because I'm spending more time at home. When I come back from the hospital in the evening, they are speaking to me. They're having a good interaction with me, and they express their thoughts. Okay, this happened on online classes, this happened, and this is the way we need to do. My daughter has started baking cakes and those things, and different varieties and those things she gives me, and then I have to appreciate what she has done. So that small things make a lot of difference for children.
Yeah, very true, Dr. Faisal. But what about the 10-year-olds, Dr. Nithya? They start becoming a little bit, on their own. So they speak rudely. They don't answer. Don't listen at all. Both from boys and girls. Dr. Nithya, what is your suggestion there?
So if the child is not listening, we have to look at a lot of factors first. We have to see, whether the child, sometimes the child doesn't appear to be paying attention. Is the child having any attention issues, learning issues, difficulty in organizing things? So the child will be typically labeled as lazy, but there might be difficulty with, making sense of time. So that is one thing that has to be looked into. And if the child doesn't is not listening to the parent, we also have to look at the parenting part, and what are the parental relationships, like what are the relationship between the mother and the father. Say the mother is trying to tell the child, no, I won't be giving this, but the father comes and says, don't be so harsh on the child, let us give it to him. So when there is inconsistency, okay, when there are no boundaries, so boundaries are not there, and those kind of things could have to be looked into. What are the dynamics of the family? And there should be some boundaries in place. And with the child also, we need to discuss it beforehand. It's not like when the child is doing something, you immediately shout at them or say, do this. So you cannot enforce rules with the child. So you have to talk to them, sit with them and say, see, this is what we are going to do. So, sit and make a structure with them, have boundaries with them. They have to be discussed when the child is not angry or not, when the child is in control and is in a good mood. Then you discuss all these things, and boundaries have to be in place. And what is most important is both the parents being consistent with the child. So when the child is not doing something, when the child is being rude to a parent, there should be consequences. Okay, there should be consequences, and parents should be consistent with the consequences. It's not like one time there are consequences and next day you say it's okay. So the child will get confused. And this kind of a consistency among parents, and consistency every time the child makes a mistake, okay, or the boundary is crossed. So the consequences have to be there. And another thing is not just focusing on the child's negatives. We also need to see, encourage the child's positives. That is more effective actually, rather than always trying to make the child wrong. When the child does something good, maybe child will go and bring something, help you. So at that time, we need to immediately, acknowledge that behavior, appreciate the effort of the child. And we shouldn't tag it with, yeah, you never listen to me, how come you're being so nice with your father? We should not tag it with some other negative behavior. When the child does something, you have to appreciate it immediately and appreciate the effort. So that will improve the child's self-confidence. And the frustration, aggression will start reducing. Okay, so these kind of things, it's not something that it'll change in a day or two. So it'll take time, and you can't expect all behaviors to change at once. So you have to pick on a couple of behaviors, and slowly, in a realistic manner, we have to set the expectations. We can't say like by tomorrow you should not behave like this, and those kind of unrealistic things the child will just stop following. They will say that, okay, I'm not interested in your boundaries or whatever your rules. So we have to do it very gradually and be persistent about it. Initially the child might resist, the child might say no, I won't follow this or something like that, but being consistent over time, the child will slowly come around and start changing.
Yeah. Now, in a bigger age group, Dr. Faisal, teenagers, adolescents, they have more energy. They want to go down and play in groups. In this COVID times, can we allow that? Is that okay? You did talk about your children and managing more activities with them. But is it okay, safe that they can be more going out and playing? Dr. Faisal, you're on mute.
Yeah, individual games and those things are fine, Dr. Rohit. Still we are into a situation where we are seeing the disease quite active in our community and those things, wherever it is, from north to south. So parents' concern that not to send children to crowded places and those things is understood. But I recently saw, I was sharing with you this morning that there was a small cycle rally one community had done in one of the district places, second tier city, where children had gone for cycling. So that kind of activities and those things with due precautions and those things can be done. Small. The ministries and those things are coming up with guidelines to open up schools also from 9 to 12th. It's too early to comment on it, but yes, it can be done, and play activity in a controlled form and those things can be done, and for children, because it's already 6 months, and but not too much of going to crowded places and those things for children should be discouraged. Too much of physical games where you have too much of close contact and those things, and where large number of players are supposed to play. Indoor games are still fine. Playing TT, playing badminton is still fine, acceptable. But where physically more children are involved or more numbers are involved, it's still supposed to be avoided at this stage. We don't know what the future holds for us. Maybe down the line after 1 month and 2 months, things would be a little bit different.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Faisal, makes sense. Dr. Nitya, you pointed this out, and this is a question.
Yes.
Obviously, it's not just the children, it's affecting us adults too. So they say that fights between parents has increased. So does it impact the child?
Yeah. What I have seen is that even parents are disturbed. But what is more important is that they don't escalate the argument then and there. It's important to take some time off, maybe move away from that place and settle, take few deep breaths and discuss it later. So in front of the child, if you shout and scream, maybe we as adults, we understand, we will settle and we will be fine later, but the child might misinterpret it, and the child might magnify the whole thing and might get scared. So I've seen children where some of them have become so scared that they start bedwetting, or they start crying, and they think that something's going to happen to parents. And often children, when they see parents fight, they think that they often blame themselves for it. They think that parents are fighting because of them, or something bad is going to happen. So my suggestion would be not to do it in front of children and not to escalate it. And yeah, it is a difficult time and we are all stuck at home. So it's not rational, realistic say don't get stressed, but do something that have some me time, have some do things that relax you, have some interaction with other family members, and pursue some hobbies, and do some relaxation techniques like yoga or something like that. And also, like doing all these things will keep a parent stress free, and that will reflect on the child. If the parent is fine, the child will be fine. So and everything will be managed well in the household as well.
That's a very, thanks so much for that. But Dr. Faisal, you mentioned children, we keep on hearing about COVID, people gone to ICU, ventilator, deaths. I'm sure that that's also happening in the family. Should we explain, not explain? What's the best way?
The best way is, first of all, we need to be honest with our children in a more structured and simple way. See, I don't think so there is anyone in this world who has not been affected due to this pandemic. So there are situations and those things of sharing a negative news with a child. Negative news of with a child has to be more in a gentler form, and the grief and sorrow what we express on our face is not supposed to affect the child. That's very important. But grief and sorrow were there before also, but it was one occasional time. Now things have come due to this pandemic. It's happening more frequently. So whenever the phone rings, now people are scared to lift it because they may be getting some bad news or something from some corner of the society. So it affects child. He's not involved, he's not speaking, but he's listening to you. He's listening, and it goes on the mind, goes in his mind that we have lost this. He is sick. He's in the hospital. His family has been isolated. His family has been quarantined, and those things. You need to speak to your. See, speaking is very important to children. They are very smart. They understand everything. Okay, you are doing something where he's away and those things, and he's just walking around from there. He will pick up what you're doing, and he will say you that you were speaking to this person and this particular topic you were discussing. So they don't underestimate them. Okay, so don't underestimate them. It's very important to be honest with your children about the virus condition and the pandemic and those things. Don't seek too much of knowledge. I request to parents is, don't seek too much of knowledge, and every time you are hooked to your social media news and those things where you hear about coronavirus, this phase coming, that phase going, this is going to happen there in Europe, this thing has happened, in America this thing has happened. So that gives you too much of excess knowledge where you will be not in a position to make a sensible decision. So be honest to your children, speak to them. That's important. Speaking helps them, helps a lot. That's my way of communicating with my children, especially, that you need to speak to them, be honest with them, say them that this pandemic will go away, and we have lost this particular family member and those things because he was sick, and assure him that things are fine. They still have fear about quarantines and those things of the other family members. Once a case has been identified, say quarantine is something which is generally helpful for them because they remain in their fortress and they recover very fast with that.
That's true. So one interesting question that has come up, and Dr. Nitya, can you predict? I mean, someone is saying that their children now, a small child, doesn't like meeting anyone. They just get scared. So will these kids be able to go to school after doing online classes for 6-7 months, smaller ones? What do you think will happen? Will they be able to manage socially?
Yeah, this is one of the difficulties, like one of the things that we are seeing because of the current situation, like children being stuck at home and slowly, this is kind of expected. Children who are a little anxious temperamentally, they might be more getting more anxious. They don't want to go out or step out of the house. They might be difficulty going to school also. So again, that is going to be a whole new thing. Now they're getting used to being at home and not stepping outside, especially younger children. So this problem might come up in future, but one way to handle it is that slowly we need to desensitize the child. So it has to be done slowly. Maybe initially, once the school reopens, you can take the child around and take them to school when the school is not there. Allow them to see the place, and initially maybe then take them till the gate and parent accompany them. If the child is getting too scared, maybe talk to the teacher, have the teacher to talk to the child, and develop a rapport so that the child gets comfortable with the class teacher. Maybe the parent can wait outside the room of the classroom for some time so that the child feels a little comfortable. So that can be done for a couple of days. So slowly, stepwise, they need to be desensitized. And another thing is that a lot of positive things have to be told about school. So, don't give, you have to cut down on, attractive things at home, like screens, or, home should be dull and schools should be more interesting. Tell positive things about how you can meet friends, how you will get to hear a lot of stories, how you can play, how everything is going to be so nice in school, and home has to be boring. So that will draw the child towards school, and, slowly it will happen. Yeah, it's, these problems are going to come in many children, but it's, this way slowly we can reassure them and slowly set them into that routine.
Excellent. Dr. Faisal, the question is it safe to visit Rainbow Hospital? Now 6 months you have been practicing, seeing patients. Is it okay? That's the question people are asking.
Dr. Rohit, yeah, definitely this question comes to me a lot. There are children who have skipped. Now we have a 6 months experience how to deal with this, with the whole lockdown and those things, how to deal with it. So yes, it is safe to visit hospitals, definitely. We have segregation methods and those things. Every hospital does have. I will speak about the place where I work. Yes, you have segregation methods where sick children are sent to a different OPD, non-sick children are taken inside, and then you have your vaccination OPD, special vaccination OPDs, home vaccinations, and those things. So yes, the children's hospitals are generally safe. You can visit the hospital, you should visit the hospital. There are video consultations. If you don't feel like you cannot visit the hospital, or it's just a minor problem, most of the doctors are available on a video consultation where you can fix a consultation, discuss with the doctor. If the doctor finds things assuring that you can be treated at home and those things, he would advise you. If not, then if he requires to see you physically, he will call you to the hospital. Okay, the next day you come at so and so time and I will see you personally. Whether it is the sick clinic or the normal clinic, he will decide about it. Now, many people ask about vaccination. How much I can delay the vaccination? I say those patients that, see, the whole world is desperately waiting for a vaccination which has not come, which is going to come in the future. That is the coronavirus vaccination. Hopefully, will happen in the future. What about the vaccination preventable diseases which can be prevented with vaccination are available? So those vaccinations are not supposed to be missed. They are similar kind of problems where like coronavirus and those things, which have been prevented due to availability of a vaccination. So don't delay your children's vaccination. Vaccinations are important. WHO, Ministry of Health, everyone is emphasizing on vaccination, and vaccinations are important. Vaccinations cannot be delayed. Okay, so with due precautions, now we don't know what future holds for us, but today, yes, we have the systems in place where sick children can be segregated and those things. Healthy children vaccination OPDs are different for doctors and those things. You can come during that time and visit the doctor for sure.
Perfect. Dr. Nithya, a question for you, which the patient's asking. Do you need to meet the children physically to be able for your consultations, or video consultation is good for you too?
It's happening both ways. So depending on the parents, where they're located, and so many other things. So it would be, yeah, in person I would be able to interact with the child better. With video consultations, children generally don't interact much on screen, so it becomes a little difficult to assess for younger children. For older children it's okay, but for younger children, physical consultations would be better, is what I would suggest.
Excellent. So, I think we've done, very interesting topic. We went more than an hour, just didn't know the time at all. So maybe a quick summarization, Dr. Nithya, from your side. Any advice for parents?
Yeah. One thing is that, the fact that so many parents who are listening to this, it shows that you are, you want to do what you can for your child. But these are difficult times. This, all this advice is for having a sense of having a direction. But don't, beat yourself up if you don't do it perfectly or anything like that. It's okay where we are. And, as long as just keep yourself, take care of yourself. And if you are fine, if you are able to, be happy and, get through this with a smile, then the children will learn that from you. So children will they will know that, courage in the face of adversity is something that they're seeing now. So children are going to learn that for life, and that's what they're going to learn from us parents. So that is what I would also tell the parents. So just there's a temporary situation, and just hold on.
Dr. Faisal, any parting comments from you? Any summaries?
Yeah, I would like to say, everyone, that see, nobody is perfect in this world. It's as my colleague Dr. Nitya has already said, we need to face up and rise up for the occasion and face it. Be honest to your children. Make a good positive atmosphere at home. Okay, speak to them. See, for them, you are their idols. There are no, they don't have different heroes in their life. It's their parents who are their real life heroes. So we need to rise up to the occasion and make the world, promise them that tomorrow is going to be better. The future is going to be better for them. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, and to all the parents who are listening, you can reach out to our doctors. Dr. Nitya is available at the email ID murthy.nitya@gmail.com, and Dr. Faisal is available at drfaisalnahdi@gmail.com. So write to them, I'm sure they will respond back. In any case, you want to have a consultation, feel free to visit the hospital, or you can even have a video consultation. They can help you through these times. Thank you both the doctors for being here for an hour. Thank you, Dr. Nitya.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Dr. Faisal. As always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And have a great day. Stay home, stay safe, play, manage the kids. As Dr. Faisal says, we are not perfect, but we will get through this together. Thank you so much.